Greg Ehrenberg here with the world's greatest PGA DFS player, Adam Scherer. Of course, what he's known for is various PGA DFS content they puts out there. Adam really been crushing in all DFS sports as of late. Golf, hockey in the past, of course, NBA as well. And we're going to be breaking down some of the NBA injury reports today. So like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. It's only a 4-game NBA slate. There are a whole lot of moving pieces, a lot of guys on the injury report that we're about to hit on. Anything changes, leave us a question below, ask in the comment section. And Adam, let's just start with the news that came out right before we started recording this. Just Jarrett Allen is questionable to play today with an illness. He was not on the injury report, nor do we have any indication that he might not play. But if he is indeed going to be out today, who do you think benefits the most from Cleveland?
Probably Kevin Love. I mean, there's already the possibility that you get a couple more minutes from Love without Markkanen. I don't think that's necessarily the most likely case. But if you take Allen out as well, you're missing, two front court pieces essentially. And I think you would get more run from Love. We know he's a really, really good point per minute guy. So it would just make him look even better. You also potentially get more run for guys like Dean Wade, Chetty Osman potentially. So I think that it would have a trickle down effect to several players, but Love in particular, I think would really start to stand out.
Yeah, and I should have mentioned that also because Lauri Markkanen is already confirmed out. Jarrett Allen was just the new piece of news. Markkanen out with an ankle injury, probably for the next couple of weeks or so, but there's certainly playing time up for grabs in the front court for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now to get to the other injuries that we actually did know were existing as we came into this show today. The Indiana Pacers, they've been really banged up as of late. They're also really far down in the standings. This kind of seems like a team that's at a crossroads, could start selling players ahead of the trade deadline. Sabonis is out, Turner is out, Brogdon is out, and Brogdon now, that Achilles injury seems more severe than what we had originally thought because he's kind of out indefinitely now. And that comes in addition to Caris LeVert being questionable. What the hell are the Pacers going to do with their backcourt and front court minutes?
Yeah, there's the potential for some serious value here. Even not necessarily in the sense of cheap players. If LeVert's in, he's going to look fantastic without Sabonis and without Brogdon. He's like a 1.35 fantasy point per minute guy. If he's out, you have Kiefer Sykes at 3,400, most likely playing a nice chunk of minutes. Guys like Lance Stevenson, you potentially can take a shot at. Jeremy Lamb at 4K, a 1.25 fantasy point per minute guy without Brogdon or Sabonis. So all of those guys, depending on the LeVert news, are viable. If LeVert's in, everyone else kind of gets downgraded. Guys like Lamb and Stevenson are still got, reasonable tournament shots. But if LeVert's out, all of those guys look very good.
Yeah, and Kiefer Sykes, if he does draw into the starting lineup, again, as a starter this year, over 30 minutes per game, averaging a little over 21 fantasy points. Not crazy fantasy production, but they're so thin on bodies that it kind of gets to a situation where anybody who starts for the Pacers, we're probably going to have to consider them now if they're cheap. Next injury situation, another one that's, of course, going to be pretty big news. Nothing but big news for tonight's 4-game slate. The Chicago Bulls, Vooch, he's been listed as questionable now. Zach LaVine, he's been out, although he could be returning. He's been upgraded from out to questionable for today. What are you looking at from the Bulls tonight?
If LaVine is out, then so you also have Devontae Green questionable, which could potentially screw up the rotations as well. But if LaVine is out, we've been seeing more playing time for Troy Brown Jr., more playing time for Tyler Cook. Either one of those guys potentially ends up being a decent point per dollar value, and you get more usage for Vooch, for DeRozan. If Vooch and LaVine are out, then you're talking even more usage for DeRozan, more usage for Kobe White, most likely, potentially more minutes for Tony Bradley, although they certainly don't have to play a true center against Oklahoma City. They could just run a smaller lineup, give DeMar DeRozan some center minutes like we've seen in the past. You could definitely go that route as well, but it would really open up a usage void.
Yeah, and then that also, of course, comes in addition to, at this point, we kind of get in a spot with injury report. I never know whether to bring up the guys who've been out for an extended period of time, but Derrick Jones Jr., he's out for another month or so. Lonzo Ball, he's out for most of the rest of the regular season. And then, of course, Alex Caruso, who was done in by Grayson Allen the other day. So very thin Chicago Bulls team when they were pretty deep not all that long ago. The injury report show, that is sponsored by Yahoo Daily Fantasy Sports. If you guys have not signed up for Yahoo yet, you could do it using the link in the description box below. Then you head over to Yahoo, make a deposit, enter a contest, and you get 1 free month of Awesemo Plus Platinum as long as you sign up using the link in the description box below. All right, rest of the injury report to hit on, and once again, only 4 games, but a lot of moving parts here, a lot of key news. The Utah Jazz, Mike Conley is doubtful. Donovan Mitchell is out. Rudy Gobert questionable. Bojan Bogdanovic is questionable. Hassan Whiteside is questionable. let's break up the front court and the backcourt for the Jazz, starting with the backcourt with Mitchell out and Conley doubtful and Bogdanovic questionable as well. Who are the players in the backcourt do you think benefit the most from Utah?
I mean, if Conley sits, there's a lot of minutes available for Clarkson and for Ingles. He did play in their last back-to-back, so who knows? But like if he's in, he's been a fantasy point per minute guy without Mitchell. Clarkson would still be reasonable, but he's priced up. Ingles is priced up. If Conley is out, those extra minutes potentially make it so, a $6,700 Clarkson or a 5K Ingles still look like pretty decent options. You could certainly take some shots at a 3K Trent Forrest if Conley is out as well. Not the most exciting play, but minutes would most likely be here if both of the starters in Utah's backcourt don't play.
Yeah, and then we have to address the front court where Rudy Gobert is questionable. Hassan, and by the way, I should add Mike Conley isn't officially doubtful in the injury report. It's just rest potential because back-to-back situation. Maybe that changes, like you said, he did play last one. I generally assume in back-to-backs Conley will not play. Maybe that changes because of all the injuries on this team. But in the front court, Rudy Gobert is questionable and Hassan Whiteside is questionable. Let's break down both situations. If Gobert sits, what are we doing with Whiteside? If both of them sits, then what happens with the front court minutes for Utah?
So if Gobert sits and Whiteside is in, I think we should probably be paying attention pretty heavily to whether or not Whiteside starts because he has been out for a while. I think that if he comes off the bench, even with Gobert out, it's a sign that he's going to be pretty severely limited, and it would be pretty tough to get to him at an elevated price point. If he starts and we don't have any sort of confirmed minutes limit, there's at least some chance that he's going out there playing 30 minutes and being a really, really good play at 6,300. There would still be some risk because, if he plays 24 minutes, there's a lot of opportunity cost at center tonight. So there's not a big margin for error. But if Whiteside's starting with Gobert out, he certainly has to carry some appeal. If they're both out, then I'm assuming Azubuike starts and plays at least like 24 minutes or so. But again, that would still be dependent too on, what other guys are available because like if Bogdanovic is in, then you can have a little bit easier time potentially filling those center minutes with Pascal and Gay. Whereas if Bogdanovic is out, those guys need to play more wing minutes and it stretches the team a little bit thinner.
And on the other side of the game, the last piece of injury news to hit on, Deandre Ayton, doubtful yet again. That comes in addition to Cameron Payne and Jay Crowder both being out. We've seen JaVale McGee been a terrific points per minute fantasy producer for the season, but as a starter, the production's been all over the place. There's been really high ceilings. There's been really low floors. How do you want to approach JaVale McGee for tonight's slate, given that it's been so difficult to predict his production?
I think that, he's still got to be at least somewhat appealing at this price. In his starts this year, he's averaged 21.3 minutes per game. He's averaged 1.24 DraftKings points per minute. At his price tag, that's still decent production. And you have to keep in mind that a big reason that the minutes per game is as low as it is that he's frequently in foul trouble. So if he can avoid foul trouble, you could easily get, a 25, 26-minute McGee game and then the rest of the minutes going to Biyombo. Whereas in the last game, you saw almost 30 minutes to Biyombo, 18 to McGee because he was dealing with foul trouble. I think he's risky. I don't think the floor is that high, but this is still someone that can legitimately 10x his salary if he avoids foul trouble and if he plays well.
And that is going to do it for the injury report today. Only 4 games, but yet almost every single team on the slate is dealing with significant injuries. Guys, thank you very much for watching. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Any questions you have at all, leave them below in the comment section. Good luck tonight.